Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 244 based on novel. So let's start. Looking at the golden high wall in front of him, Xiao Yan's eyes were full of determination. In fact, the western and southern regions were not as far away as expected, but because of the boundary between the states, the distance was like a gully in the sky. No one could come back to the southwest regions without the help of the transmission array. Of course, this is just a popular saying among the majority of the population. Even without the help of the transmission array, it is not impossible to cross the border by manpower, but it is just a matter of strength. And this seems to be invisible, which once again explains the importance of power on this continent for everyone. A strong force is a pass that will be recognized by any place on the continent. Even if it is as strong as the force of heaven and earth, it cannot be stopped by a strong enough force. Who? Looking at the thick energy barrier in front of him, Xiao Yang slowly breathed out a breath. At this moment, when Xiao Yang personally faced the state border, Rao was in his state of mind, and the bottom of his heart involuntarily threw up a ripple. State boundary is an existence that can never be broken in the eyes of many strong people. It has stood between heaven and earth for countless years. No one knows its formation, but everyone knows that the strength of state boundary cannot be touched by anyone. If you want to try to challenge the strength of state boundary, you are bound to pay a great price. Even so, it is imperative for Xiao Yang to set foot in the southern region today. Even the power of heaven and earth can't stop him from thinking about the pass. On the other side of the golden barrier, the land that can be seen clearly is the southern region. How can the distance at the door easily retreat because of the so-called power of heaven and earth? If we don't fight, we can never break it. Drink. The giant elephant is determined, Kai. Then the next moment, when an earth-shaking cry jumped out of Xiao Yang's mouth, the raging flame burned up in the depths of Xiao Yang's eyes, and a huge golden virtual shadow also stood between heaven and earth. Facing the golden barrier, Xiao Yang clenched his fist fiercely. His terrible strength and palm gathered rapidly, with the potential to collapse the sky and crack the earth. Fierce strange fire burned on his fist, melting all things, even the void, will also be burned by it. 8-level collapse. There was a thunderous drink in his throat. His huge fist fell heavily at the same time and hit the golden barrier in front of him. The powerful force immediately turned into a circle-like energy ripple and spread rapidly. Seeing that Xiao Yang's fist left a pit on the golden barrier, he didn't wait for Xiao Yang to take a breath in his heart. A more ferocious force, like a volcanic eruption, suddenly ejected from the barrier and bombarded Xiao Yang. Bang! With a dull loud noise, Xiao Yang's body suddenly flew upside down. The giant elephant will disperse in an instant. A mouthful of blood can't help gushing out of his mouth. In the twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yang's face became very white. Cough, cough. After a violent cough, Xiao Yang climbed out of the huge pit hit by Sheng Sheng and coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood. After taking a pill, he looked very dignified and fell on the golden barrier again. It has to be said that the state boundary is much stronger than Xiao Yang imagined. He thought that even if he could not smash the barrier with his fist just now, he should be able to smash more than half the thickness of the barrier. But after trying, Xiao Yang realized that he far underestimated the tenacity of the barrier. He could not smash it with brute force alone, on the contrary, it will be repeatedly bombarded by this barrier, which is not worth the loss. There was only one way Xiao Yang could think of. Unless this state boundary is smashed, it can only go on like this without a foundation. This change is not the way at all. One strike with all strength is Xiao Yang's only choice now. With this in mind, Xiao Yang wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth. While refining the pill in his body to repair his injury, he freed up his hands. With a puff, both hands held a different fire. Then under Xiao Yang's control, the two different fires began to blend slowly. This move is Xiao Yang's card. Buddha Anger Lotus is good. In addition to this move, Xiao Yang can't think of any fighting skills that can have such power. He has only one chance. If he can't do it with all his strength, he can't afford the price. Therefore, it's also imperative to show Buddha's Anger Lotus. A moment later, An extremely exquisite fire lotus was condensed between Xiao Yan's hands. Between floating and rotating, the invisible void was easily torn apart. Under the beautiful appearance that seems harmless to humans and animals, it is a frightening force of destruction. Then, with all Xiao Yang's expectations, Huolian slowly floated out of the sky above his palm, just like a butterfly just breaking out of its cocoon, flying gently towards the state border. In this process, Xiao Yang's heart was very nervous. He was naturally very clear about the power of Buddha's anger lotus. If even this blow could not break the state boundary, I'm afraid he could not enter the southern region, but even his own life. In Xiao Yang's nervous eyes, the fire lotus and the golden barrier touched slowly. Boom! The terrible destruction storm swept across the world, and a strong energy severely impacted the state boundary. One side of the world turned into endless darkness in the twinkling of an eye, and everything between the world was destroyed. Even the towering state boundary was shaking violently. The powerful force was obviously the power to shake the world successfully. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's face couldn't help showing an excited smile until the powerful energy storm dispersed completely. When the storm swept over, Xiao Yang's eyes resumed Qingming. Half of the world had been destroyed. On the contrary, the state border was still the same. For a moment, Xiao Yang was frozen in place like a stone carving. Unexpectedly, even his biggest card failed to shatter the state boundary. But then, just when Xiao Yang was disappointed, at the last moment, there was a slight click on the state boundary, and then a bang. The originally thick state boundary suddenly burst, revealing a gap just enough for one person to pass through. In this way, the road to the southern region is completely placed in front of Xiao Yang. While Xiao Yang broke the state border and was ready to enter the southern region, on the other side, in the southern region, the party was flying towards the southwest border at a very fast speed. The leader of the group was an old man with long grey hair. His face was slightly cloudy. A pair of deep concave muddy old eyes contained a little golden light, which was quite strange. The most surprising thing is that the old man's cultivation is clearly only 9-star fighting emperor, but the breath of the other two old men who follow behind him has reached the source of Huayuan. Although the cultivation of the others behind him is not as good as the three in the front row, they are also the best of the strong fighting emperor, and their strength cannot be underestimated. A group of people flew in the sky for a long time, until at a certain moment, a strong Huayuanjing behind the first old man asked curiously, "Master Mu, although it's good that there is a strong person at the level of Huayuanjing in Qingyang City, it seems that we don't need so many people. Chen Yang and I will be able to solve all those guys together." "Yes, Master Mu, the palace leader seems to have made a mountain out of a molehill this time. We haven't met the opponent of Huayuan territory. If we work together, there's nothing we can't solve." On one side, the old man called Chen Yang laughed and looked confident. It seemed that this action had no pressure on him. If you simply kill them all, it's natural for you to go alone, but the palace master has ordered that one of the group of people in Qingyang City must be brought back alive. That person is the guy of Huayuanjing level. Do you think you can take it back alive?" Hearing the words of the two behind them, the grey-haired old man snorted coldly and uttered a word, which made the two people speechless. If the other party didn't intend to explode, they might be able to do it, but if the guy had the intention of exploding, it would be difficult for them to stop. Soon, this group of people came to the outside of Qingyang City. At the same time, the Liu family in the city had already noticed the arrival of this group. All the strong people of the family went out one after another, swept into the sky and faced off with the group of people outside the city. It was Bai Hua who was the leader. These guys are really endless. On the side of Bai Hua, Liu Huabai looked at the group of people opposite him with a gloomy face. Over the years, Qingyun Mansion has constantly had strong people attack Qingyang City. However, because of Bai Hua and the arrival of Qin Zhong, the strong people of Qingyun Mansion have retreated again and again. Therefore, the reputation of Qingyang City once spread rapidly among the surrounding cities. The first result of this phenomenon is that it has not only caused great profits to the external industries of the Liu family, but also made the Liu family more prosperous than before. But until half a year ago, this state was finally broken by a more terrible force, which is Haiyun Palace. Haiyun Palace, as the largest force on the southwest border, has been expanding its territory endlessly since a year and a half ago. Haiyun Palace, which originally occupied only a part of prosperous cities, annexed all the other dozen surrounding cities in just a few months. The violent means are disgusting. Unfortunately, in the face of the atrocities of Haiyun Palace, there are family forces in the central plains of those cities. In addition to obedience, there is only a dead end. In order to survive, many forces on the southwest border can only choose to bear or surrender. There are no so-called onlookers at all, because everyone can't protect himself. Even passers-by on the roadside may be labeled with death by Haiyun Palace for unwarranted charges at the next moment. For a time, the whole southwest border seemed to fall into purgatory, but among these many large and small forces, only the Liu family in Qingyang City was able to protect themselves, not for others, because there was a super strong person at the later level of the source territory in the Liu family. Because of the relationship between Baihua and Haiyun Palace, several teams sent by Haiyun Palace were ruthlessly beaten back. The successive failures really shocked the high level of Haiyun Palace. Therefore, this time, we were able to send 2 strong people at the source level at one time, as well as the grey-haired old man who was led by the 9-star duty. Be careful, our opponent this time is much stronger than the previous waves. Frowning, he looked at the 2 strong people in the source environment opposite his eyes and fought 1 against 2. Even he would be very hard. Moreover, there seems to be a more difficult role in this group. White Birch stared at the grey-haired old man opposite. Although this guy's breath looked only good like the 9-star duty, he was also surprised by the strange smell emanating from this guy's body. There's something strange about this guy. With a whisper in her heart, Baihua's eyes turned. Even when she touched Zhongli, who was also ugly, it was obvious that the other party also noticed the strength of the people opposite. Coupled with the group of strong fighters behind them, I'm afraid the war will be more difficult than the one in the image. If Xiao Yan were here, what would these old bastards count? However, at this time, a lovely little head suddenly climbed up on the White Birch's shoulder. The sun shone, revealing a delicate and beautiful cheek. A pair of beautiful eyes as bright as crystal were staring at the opposite party. The words spit out in the mouth reminded everyone in the audience of the guy who had no news for many years. Xiao Yang, haha, I don't know how far he has grown now. If he is here, there may be a turn for the better. Qin Zhong smiled wistfully. Once he remembered Xiao Yang, he couldn't help remembering the scene when Xiao Yang saved him. Although he is still a young man, the power contained under that body is beyond the reach of many famous older generations. No, maybe, it must be. If Xiao Yang was there, these guys would not be able to resist his move. The girl opened her mouth reluctantly, but the birch gently pressed down the girl's exquisite little head. Well, Qianqian, go back quickly. Remember to look after the girl Liana. We'll take care of everything here. This girl is the one who left Murong's house alone and came to the southwest border. Murong Qianqian. Hihi, you must be Baihua. I've been thundering at your name for more than half a year. With my own strength, I even withdrew several waves of troops from Haiyun Palace. I've already had such strength at a young age. Boy, I've seen 2 people like you all my life. You're the second. At this time, the Haiyun Palace and his party outside the opposite city slowly came forward and came to the void just 100 feet away from Baihua and others. The 2 sides looked at each other from a distance. When the words of the first grey-haired old man fell, they also raised their hands and stroked their left arm involuntarily. There was a fierce color in the bottom of their eyes. Oh, really? Then I think you'll stop here. I'll fix your memory at this moment forever. At the same time, the source gas in the cyclone in the body suddenly gushed out of the body at this moment. A strong momentum and pressure turned into an invisible storm centered on the White Birch and oppressed the grey-haired old people opposite. The Battle of Qingyang kicked off. A team of nearly 30 people from the 2 sides began a fierce confrontation over Qingyang City. Relying on her own strength, Baihua fought alone against 2 strong people in Huiyuan territory. With the cultivation in the later stage of Huiyuan territory, she did not lose the wind in a short time. As for Qin Zhong and others, they were a strong fighting emperor in Shanghai Cloud Palace. Among them, Zhongli was facing the grey-haired old man. Gaga, Zhongli, I haven't seen you for many years. I didn't expect you to come here. Zhongli, who is also the 9-star fighting emperor, and the grey-haired old man, immediately separated from each other after a fierce frontal blow. However, just when the two men separated, the grey-haired old man spit out an extremely strange word. Well. Hearing this, Zhongli immediately frowned. Although the man in front of him was full of strange breath, he seemed to have never been in contact with it. What did he mean by this? It seems that you and I have never met. Today's World War I is bound to be the first encounter. How can I say goodbye? If you want to disturb my mind, you chose the wrong person. After a moment of hesitation, Zhongli immediately snorted coldly and flashed his body. In the blink of an eye, he came to the grey-haired old man. As soon as his palm was raised, it fell hard against the other party's chest. Gaga, sure enough, you don't recognize me now. With a strange smile, the grey-haired old man's body squirmed strangely, but he hid Zhongli's blow in an extremely strange posture. Seeing this, Zhongli's face was not surprised. While his palm swept through the void, his body suddenly twisted and kicked out again. However, at the critical moment, the grey-haired old man held his ankle with his left hand. His strong strength was forcibly removed by him. What? Zhongli was surprised, but before he could make any response, the person in front of him immediately pulled hard and pulled his body in front of him. Then, the golden light in his right hand came to him and printed a palm on his chest. Bang! When the palm fell, Zhongli's body was immediately blown out, but strangely, although the other party's left hand was full of strength and could not break free, his right hand seemed soft and weak, which was difficult to hurt him. Therefore, the grey-haired old man's palm made his blood churn in his body. If he was someone else, the palm fell firmly. Even if it was not seriously injured, that will never be easy. Damn it. Seeing Zhongli, the grey-haired old man was unwilling to scold. Then, his right hand quickly lifted up. In the palm of his hand, a mysterious golden array suddenly solidified. Zhongli, I'll let you remember who I am. The voice of resentment spits out. The next moment, around the clock's body, I don't know when there is a golden light shining, which quickly turns into a cylindrical mask and traps him in it. This is. When Zhongli tried to break this strange array, he was shocked to find that with his strength, he could not break this strange array at all. No matter how he bombarded, this array was not broken at all, and even swallowed part of his strength to himself. The appearance of this scene did not make him recall someone once. It was precisely because of the same array that he once fell into endless pain. Gaga. Trapped God Array, Zhongli, do you remember in the wild ancient city? Buzz. The grey-haired old man uttered a word, and the scenes of that year suddenly appeared in the depths of Zhongli's mind. Then, he couldn't help crying. Mu Han. You are Mu Han. How is this possible? Mu Han, one of the leading figures in the wild ancient city at that time, unfortunately, he fell down all the way because he met Xiao Yang, and even lost his arm because of Xiao Yang. In those days, Mu Han was cut off by Xiao Yang in the wild ancient city and almost became a useless man. But now, not only has he changed his face, but even his lost left arm has come back. Gaga, I didn't expect it. I'm back. Not only my left arm is back, but also my cultivation has become stronger than before. Zhongli, Ludu, and Qin Zhong, you three, I'll cut you first today. As for Jiu Li, I'll go back to find them for revenge sooner or later. After revealing his identity, Mu Han's face immediately showed a ferocious color. In a pair of cloudy old eyes, there was a flame of revenge. At the beginning, Xiao Yang cut off his arm and almost became a disabled man. In order to survive and revenge, he left the wild ancient city and joined Haiyun Palace after several twists and turns. Even for some reasons, he was reborn with the help of his current body. His left arm can be used again, and its strength is stronger than at the beginning. Unfortunately, the price is, his right arm will lose a great part of his strength. He can't use any fighting skills except the battle array. However, he is willing to do anything for revenge and to make himself have more powerful power. He even sells himself in exchange for power. No one knows the pain in this process. Mu Han regards all the results as the misfortune brought to him by Xiao Yang. Because of this, he hates everyone in the wild ancient city more. Mu Han pointed to Bai Hua ferociously. Although his hatred almost drowned his consciousness, he was still quite afraid of the palace master. Therefore, he had to keep his hand. When Mu Han blurted out his words, a powerful soul force immediately gushed out of his body, forming a surge of energy waves, breaking the invisible void in an instant. With the pouring out of these soul forces, huge golden pillars of light also shot out quickly to form a strange array, including everyone in the battle circle at the moment. Look at Mu Han. At this moment, a palm-sized white array plate has appeared in his hand. The reason why those pillars of light can spread so fast, the main reason is that this array is blessed in the middle. Otherwise, Mu Han's current ability alone is not enough to quickly condense such a large array. When this array was completely formed, the light of Lingtian shrouded the whole Qingyang city, and the energy light columns were intertwined to form a huge octagonal star. Each node in it gathered extremely surging power. Just wait for Mu Hanshin to read, and this huge sky-shaking array will run immediately. Ancient Sky Spirit Killing Array, Qi. With Mu Han's violent drink, the huge array of Lingtian suddenly began to work at this moment. The huge octagonal star also contains a small 7-pointed star and several small star arrays, which embrace each other layer by layer. When the outer octagonal star starts to rotate, several internal arrays also rotate together, and the golden light is prosperous. It's more dazzling than the sun in the sky. Even heaven and earth have changed color. After the ancient sky-killing spirit array began to operate, between heaven and earth, surging energy from heaven and earth was drawn by the array and constantly gathered into the array. The amazing atmosphere of killing and cutting also spread with the condensation of these energy, which was like an invisible barrier over the whole Qingyang city. On the horizon, when Bai Hua and others noticed the change here, their eyes immediately gathered and looked up. At a glance, they saw the Lingtian killing array full of killing atmosphere above the sky. The expression on their faces immediately changed. Then, Bai Hua's eyes paid attention to Zhongli, who was trapped by Mu Han, and faced the array of the latter. Even if Zhongli exhausted all means, there was no possibility of a breakthrough. That is to say, as far as the current war situation is concerned, they have lost the battle power of Zhongli. In the current battlefield, the only person who can compete with the other two strong people in the source environment and Mu Han is Bai Hua. Once Bai Hua is defeated, Qingyang City will be completely disintegrated. However, while Bai Hua was still thinking about how to delay, in the amazing killing array above the sky, golden energy light suddenly fell from the sky like a meteorite, and fell aimlessly into the city below. Suddenly, countless people watching the war and the Liu family's residents were also suffering from the fish in the pond in the twinkling of an eye. Under the bombardment of countless energy light groups, in an instant, countless people watching the war in the city were buried and gave their lives under the bombardment of that array. The originally prosperous Qingyang city turned into ruins in just a few minutes, with corpses everywhere and ruins, which can be described as miserable. Even Liu Huabai and others, who were fighting fiercely in the sky, also fell into the city under those chaotic bombardments. Although they were not seriously injured, they also suffered a lot. Coupled with the constant pursuit of the other party's powerful fighters, the war situation soon fell into the downwind. Obviously, they can't last long. Damn it. Seeing this scene, Bai Hua couldn't help but bite her teeth and scold. The killing array in the sky was really a trouble. If it was allowed to continue to operate, I'm afraid even he would be hard hit. Although Qin Zhong and others' accomplishments were above Liu Huabai, they were also in danger in the face of such a situation. They were reluctant to take care of themselves, let alone save Zhongli. In this way, the only person who still has a chance to save Zhongli is the white birch. However, just when Bai Hua was about to move, the two strong people in the source environment flashed in front of him again. At the same time, Mu Han also stood between the two and stared at him with a sneer. Gaga Gaga, do you want to save people? I think you'd better think about yourself first. With a sneer, Mu Han raised his hand and waved it. The two people around him immediately shot out at the white birch. They looked like ghosts. In the blink of an eye, they came to the white birch, attacked left and right, and bombarded the important parts of the white birch's body. In the face of the fierce attack of the two men, Rao was afraid to have the slightest carelessness with Bai Hua's cultivation. He put his hands together, and the source gas in his body surged, blocking the attack of the two men. When the three people were separated, Mu Han's body appeared behind Bai Hua again. The golden light in his right palm fell hard on Bai Hua's back. "Get out of here." His face sank, and the birch's body shook violently. His body twisted in place in an extremely strange posture, and hit the golden light with a palm. Boom! When the blow fell, Bai Hua's body retreated back in a slightly embarrassed way. Mu Han was also blown out by Bai Hua's palm. Although the other party's cultivation in the array was quite high, he was not Bai Hua's opponent. At the moment when the body stopped, Bai Hua looked down with a dignified face and a scorched palm. After the collision with the golden light just now, even he could not resist all the powerful power on it. I'm afraid Mu Han's combat power was not under him. Coupled with the other two guys, he was afraid of worrying about his life in this war. Alas! Bai Hua sighed helplessly. At this moment, Bai Hua can only expect Murong Chanxian to leave here with Liana as soon as possible. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if he falls into a desperate situation. It's Murong Chanxian and Liana, one of whom is extremely important to him, and the other is entrusted by Xiao Yang to take care of him. He can't tolerate an accident as long as they are okay. He has no scruples. Die. Just when the white birch was distracted, the two Huayuanjing bullied him again and slapped him on the head of the white birch one after another. The palm wind was fierce, and there was no possibility of avoiding. Since you want my life so much, even if I die, I will take you to bury with me. Back to her senses, Bai Hua gave a cold drink in her mouth and no longer hesitated. After she took the two people's palm in the front, she couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. When she looked up, Mu Han's body ushered in again. However, this time, Bai Hua didn't mean to avoid Mu Han's attack. She greeted him in the front and slapped Mu Han's chest with a backhand, like a life-for-life posture. Aware of the other party's intention, Mu Han's face suddenly changed slightly. The array that was supposed to fall on Bai Hua's head had to be forced to change direction and collide with Bai Hua's attack again. Then, the two strong people from Huiyuan territory rushed again. When Bai Hua's body regressed, they each slapped on his chest. Suddenly, the blood in his mouth spewed out uncontrollably. Bai Hua's face turned white in a moment and his body fell heavily into the city below. But even so, he was still fearless. He laughed loudly with his mouth full of blood, and his face was ferocious. Ha ha ha, a group of bastards, is that all they can do? Come again if you have the ability. Birch laughed and climbed up hard from the ruins. The three people in the sky also fell in front of Birch and stared at him from a commanding position. At this moment, the huge array in the sky has long dispersed, but the Qingyang city has long been turned into ruins. Most of the Liu family are dead and injured. Even the patriarch and elder are seriously injured at the moment. As for the rest, they all lose their combat power. Seeing the white birch fall, the Liu family in Qingyang city is over. It's good for people like you to solve it earlier, but the palace leader has told us to live before departure, so I can only trouble you to go with us. Mu Han smiled. At the same time, the array in the palm condensed again. Want to live? Ha ha ha, I'm not as good as your wish. With a ferocious smile, the remaining strength in the white birch immediately rioted, and his pale face turned red in an instant. A powerful force was running rapidly in his body, just like a look about to explode. Want to explode? With a faint sneer, Mu Han wanted to fight, but then, with an anxious cry, a beautiful figure immediately entered the sight of Mu Han and others, and rushed into the arms of white birch. No. You don't want to die, I don't want you to die. We have to wait for Xiao Yang to come back together. If he doesn't come back, you can't have an accident. Hearing the familiar cry, Bai Hua's heart was shocked. The owner of the voice was Murong Chanxian. It was good. He had asked Murong Chanxian to leave with Liana, but he didn't want her to run back now. Isn't it a sheep into a tiger's mouth? Gaga, Gaga, I can't believe there's another one. It seems that your previous relationship is extraordinary. In this way, things will be much simpler. Seeing the scene in front of him, Mu Han suddenly showed a sinister color on his face and winked at the two people around him. They immediately nodded and were in line. Regardless of the struggle of Bai Hua, they forcibly grabbed Murong Qianqian and controlled him in their hands. In the face of the two strong men at the source level, Murong Qianqian naturally could not have any chance to break free, and Bai Hua was also drinking and scolding with deep hatred on his face, but the other party was dismissive. Whatever his roar, he was indifferent. It seems that you are very fond of this girl. In this way, you don't want her to be hurt at all. Mu Han opened his mouth with a sneer on his face. Seeing the angry look on Bai Hua's face, his heart was extremely happy. When Bai Hua struggled to rush forward, Mu Han flew out with a slap. The red blood was sprayed again. Murong Qianqian couldn't help crying, but everything seemed so weak. Gaga, if you want to save her, I'm afraid you don't even have the strength to stand up. How can you talk about saving people? If you want her to live, you'd better follow me, otherwise. A strange smile came out. Mu Han's dark eyes fell on Murong Qianqian's body, stretched out a bamboo-like finger, and the sharp fingertip gently scratched the smooth and pretty face of the latter. Bai Hua couldn't stand it at once. She immediately showed a panic color on her face. She roared in her mouth and hurriedly agreed to Mu Han's request without hesitation. Quack 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 quack. Mu Han sneered, raised his hand and stroked Murong Qianqian's small head. His old face was full of ferocious color. Shua. However, immediately after the next moment, when a sharp and piercing wind sounded, Murong Qianqian, under the control of the two strong people in the source environment, suddenly disappeared. At the same time, Mu Han's mouth also suddenly gave out a miserable scream. Because, what disappeared with Murong Qianqian, and the left arm he just stretched out? In the dilapidated Qingyang city, at this moment, a sad roar pierced the sky suddenly sounded. Beside the street, the two strong people of Huyuan looked at the woman who suddenly disappeared in front of them with a look of amazement. They couldn't help but be stunned. Immediately after that, when Mu Han's mouth made a painful roar, their eyes noticed the latter. Immediately, their faces showed a look of shock. Mu Han stroked Murong Qianqian's left hand, together with his whole arm, disappeared at this moment. Only a scorched trace could be seen in his arm. All the blood he wanted to flow was forcibly blocked back, but Mu Han's face was white. Then the pain of his soul made him unbearable, even though his soul power was far beyond ordinary people, but the pain of his broken arm was unbearable. He never thought that he would bear the same crime and the same pain twice. The most ironic thing is that even the broken arm is his left arm. How much did he pay? The powerful left arm he just replaced was lost again. This brought Mu Han endless pain, but more anger and resentment. Who are you? Mu Han's old face was almost distorted. When he looked up, 2 lines of blood and tears had burst into his eyes, but the pain in his heart was far better than this. Today, he wanted to make the man who broke his arm pay a painful price no matter what. Not far away, the figure in a black robe is now facing the 3 Mu Hans with his back. Murong Qianqian in his arms temporarily fainted because of the stimulation just now, but the white birch in front of him is stiff and staring at the person in front of him. His face is full of an unbelievable look. At the same time, his mouth is full of inexplicable happiness. It seems that I'm glad I didn't explode before, and it seems that I'm glad I can see the person in front of me again. When he saw the man in black, he knew that since he had come back, the trouble in Qingyang City today could be solved. He always believed in this. When the white birch was about to say something, the man in black stretched out his hand and handed the white birch a pill. The latter opened his mouth and took it without doubt. On the other side, Mu Han saw the back of the man in black robe, and inexplicably passed a feeling of déjà vu in his heart. At the same time, his angry mood trembled unconsciously. In the bottom of his heart, there was a sense of fear coming out uncontrollably. At present, the mysterious black-robed man who had not yet seen his true face could bring him a sense of fear in such a form, which could not help but make Mu Han's heart cold. At the same time, a greater curiosity also rose. The more you feel this inexplicable danger, the more you want to explore. Human nature is shown at a glance at the moment. Who are you? Mu Han said word by word. Rao was so. He still felt the trembling in his voice. As Mu Han spewed out his words, the black-robed man in front of the white birch turned around slowly, and a face covered by the black robe slowly reflected in the sun. It's Xiao Yang. Buzz. However, when Mu Han saw Xiao Yang at the moment, in a pair of shadowy old eyes, the pupils suddenly contracted to the size of a needle tip. Even the heart stagnated slightly at this moment. The whole person seemed to turn into a stone statue in an instant. His heart was both shocked and frightened. No matter how, he didn't expect to meet him again at this time. Mu Han once imagined the scene when he met Xiao Yang again countless times, but he never thought it would be such a situation. According to Xiao Yang's speed, the other party's cultivation has also reached the level of Huayuanjing, and it is definitely better than that of Baihua. Moreover, at the beginning, he personally felt Xiao Yang's terrible combat power far beyond his cultivation. Now they are up again. Even with Mu Han's cultivation today, there is no assurance of victory in my heart. But fortunately, in today's battlefield, in addition to him, there are the 2 strong people in Huiyuan territory and the more than 10 strong people fighting the emperor. If these people are added together with his array, it may not be difficult to kill the people in front of us. Who? Xiao Yang, I can't believe it. I can't believe it's you, Mu Han said in an extremely low tone. His pale face was immediately shrouded in a haze, and his ferocious killing intention was also madly condensed at the moment. Looking at the strange face of the grey-haired old man opposite, Xiao Yang can't help frowning slightly. Although this person's appearance is very strange, Xiao Yang can feel that he must have seen this guy somewhere. Of course, the relationship will not be good, otherwise the guy wouldn't have said such angry words when he saw him. Although I don't know who you are, it's true that you destroyed here and hurt them, so today, you and them. Just stay. A faint word slowly floated out of Xiao Yang's mouth. However, just when the last word came out, the ground under his feet suddenly burst into a pit, and wide cracks spread like spider webs. Xiao Yang's body also mysteriously disappeared in place. Bang! Almost at the same time, the strong fighters of the Haiyun Palace in the distance seemed to be suddenly hit hard, and their figures fell heavily into the city below like meteorites, buried deep under the earth. With just one blow, the more than 10 strong fighters of Haiyun Palace lost their fighting power in a moment, and their whole body was seriously damaged. If their chi is like a hairspring, they may fall at any time. What's more, the most shocking thing is that all this happened and ended in a short moment. When Mu Han and the 2 strong people behind him recovered this time, Xiao Yang's body had already returned to its original position again, and his plain eyes were still staring at them, as if he had never left there. Mutter. At this moment, the 2 powerful people in Huayuanjing couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Even they couldn't catch up with such a terrible speed. It's hard to imagine that if Xiao Yang chose to attack them just now, I'm afraid their situation would not be better than those dozen fighting emperors at the moment. This video will end here.